The night she posted it, I realized I'd already lost her long before she ever packed her bags. Her caption read, "Men think they own you," and it felt less like a statement and more like a verdict. Her name was Sloane Harrington, and for the first time in 2 years, I didn't recognize her. We lived in a quiet part of Greenwich, Connecticut, the kind of neighborhood where everything looked stable even when it wasn't. I was Carter Whitfield, a financial consultant who believed in structure, predictability, and quiet loyalty. Sloane was the opposite. She was spontaneous, socially magnetic, and always just slightly out of reach, even when she was right next to me. Her best friend was Nolan Prescott. They had known each other since college. They had history, shared memories, inside jokes that I was never fully part of. At first, I respected it. I told myself trust meant not needing to question everything. But trust has a quiet way of shifting when patterns change. It started with late-night texts that she wouldn't explain. Then came the weekends where Nolan's name appeared more often than mine in her plans. And eventually, the trip. She mentioned it casually over dinner. "It's just a few days," she said. With Nolan, I paused longer than I should have. Not because I wanted to control her, but because something inside me didn't sit right. "Why just the two of you?" I asked. She shrugged, like the question itself was unreasonable. "Because that's how we've always done things." That was the first moment I felt the ground shift under us. Because always didn't include me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her of anything. I just said calmly, "I'm not comfortable with that." She stared at me like I had crossed an invisible line. "What do you mean you're not comfortable?" "I mean exactly that," I replied. "It feels inappropriate." That word changed everything. "Inappropriate?" she repeated, almost laughing. "You think I'm doing something wrong?" "I didn't say that," I said carefully. "But it doesn't feel right to me." Silence filled the room, heavy and sharp. And then she said something I didn't expect. "So this is about control. Before we go further, think about this for a second. If you were in my position, would you have said something or stayed silent and ignored your instincts? Because that choice changes everything." I didn't argue with her. I didn't try to convince her. I just said, "It's about respect." That word hit differently. She didn't respond right away. She just stood up, grabbed her phone, and walked into the other room. I thought she needed space. I thought we would talk about it later. But later never came. Instead, I saw the post. Black background. White text. Simple. Sharp. "Men think they own you." And beneath it, a flood of comments from people who didn't know me, judging a version of me that didn't exist. Support poured in for her. Validation. Agreement. Encouragement. It was public, and it was deliberate. That's when I realized this wasn't just about the trip anymore. This was about narrative. She had already decided how the story would be told, and I was the villain in it. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She made coffee. She asked if I wanted breakfast. It was almost surreal. I didn't mention the post. Not yet. I wanted to see if she would. She didn't. Instead, she brought up the trip again. "I booked the flights," she said. Just like that. No discussion. No acknowledgement. Just a decision. That's when something inside me stopped trying. Not emotionally. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Like a switch being turned off. "Okay," I said. She looked at me, confused. That's it. That's it." She studied my face like she was trying to find the reaction she expected. But I didn't give her one. Because reactions are a form of investment. And I was starting to understand where my investment was going. The days leading up to the trip were strangely calm. Too calm. She packed her bags. She coordinated plans with Nolan. She talked about the trip like it was something she deserved. And maybe she did. But not like this. Not at the cost of everything else. The night before she left, she asked me a question. "Are you mad at me?" I thought about it. And then I answered honestly. No. She seemed relieved. But she shouldn't have been. Because I wasn't mad. I was done trying to be understood by someone who had already decided not to understand me. The morning she left, I helped her carry her luggage to the car. She hugged me. Briefly. Casually. Like it didn't mean much. And then she was gone. The house felt different immediately. Quieter. But not in a peaceful way. More like something had been removed that I hadn't realized was holding everything together. I didn't check her social media that day. Or the next. I focused on work. On structure. On things that made sense. But eventually, curiosity wins. I open her profile. Photos, smiles, beach views, wine glasses, and Nolan. Always Nolan. In the background, in the reflection, sometimes right next to her. Nothing explicitly wrong. Nothing you could point to and say, this is proof. But sometimes it's not about proof. It's about patterns, and what those patterns imply. That's when the second shift happened. Not in her. In me. I stopped asking questions I already knew the answers to. I stopped needing closure from someone who was actively creating distance. And I started preparing for a version of reality I hadn't wanted to face. She came back 4 days later. Sun-kissed. Relaxed. Different. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Like someone who had stepped into a different version of themselves and wasn't fully coming back. How was it? I asked. It was amazing, she said. No hositashchen. No complexity. Just amazing. I nodded. Good. She waited for more. But there was nothing else to say. Because the real conversation had already happened. Just not out loud. That night, we sat across from each other at dinner. Same table. Same house. Different reality. And then she said something that confirmed everything. You've been distant. I looked at her. Carefully. Measured. I've been consistent. I replied. You've just been somewhere else. She didn't argue. She didn't deny it. She just looked away. And in that moment, I understood something clearly. This wasn't about the trip. It was about alignment. Or the lack of it. Before we finish this part, ask yourself honestly. When respect starts feeling optional in a relationship, is it still a relationship worth holding on to? Because that answer defines what comes next. I didn't end things that night. Not dramatically. Not emotionally. I just changed how I participated. I stopped chasing clarity. I stopped negotiating boundaries that should have been understood. And over the next few weeks, the distance between us became undeniable. Not because of conflict, but because of absence, of effort, of alignment. Eventually, she noticed. Something's different, she said one evening. It is, I replied. What happened? I paused. Then I told her the truth. You made a decision, I said, and I respected it. But that decision showed me where I stand. She didn't respond right away, because some truths don't leave room for argument, only reflection. We didn't break up that night, but we both knew we were no longer building something together. We were just maintaining something that had already ended. And sometimes, that's the most honest ending there is. Not explosive, not dramatic, just quietly undeniable. Personal reflection. What happened between Carter Whitfield and Sloane Harrington is less about a single decision and more about how people interpret boundaries and autonomy differently. From Sloane's perspective, the trip may have represented independence and the preservation of a long-standing friendship that existed before the relationship. To her, Carter's discomfort could have felt like a restriction rather than a request for mutual respect. From Carter's perspective, the issue was not control, but alignment. He wasn't asking to eliminate her friendships, but questioning the context and boundaries surrounding them. What makes this situation psychologically complex is that both individuals likely believed they were acting reasonably within their own frameworks. Sloane prioritized personal freedom and social validation, while Carter prioritized relational consistency and respect. The conflict emerged not because one was right and the other was wrong, but because neither fully acknowledged the emotional weight of the other's position. Public validation, like Sloane's post, often amplifies personal narratives while minimizing nuance. It creates a simplified version of events that may feel justified, but rarely reflects the full reality. At the same time, Carter's withdrawal, while calm and controlled, represents a form of emotional disengagement that can end relationships just as effectively as conflict. This story highlights how misalignment in values doesn't always lead to dramatic endings. Sometimes, it leads to quiet disconnection, and that disconnection often begins long before either person is willing to admit it. 3 high CTR YouTube title variations. She went on vacation with her best friend. What I did after changed everything. I asked for one boundary. She turned it into a public accusation. She said I was controlling. I stayed silent and watched what happened next. 2 thumbnail hook phrases. Cross the line. Was I wrong?